don't know that this will ever see the light of day or be in any video, but on one of my cell cameras on a different property that we have permission on, I just got pictures of one of our targets, a big 10 over there, really nice deer. And Jonathan had mentioned possibly going to that property this evening. And I knew that if he went to that stand, I mean, he would have shot that deer. He would have had like a 30-yard shot at this deer. Like chip shot with a bow. And the deer just walked right by my cell camera. And I'm like, well, he must not have went to that property, but I'm gonna call him and see where he's at and what he's doing. And I called him. I think I called him like 5 times or 6 times or something like that. And he finally just picked up. And I said, where are you at? And he said that he indeed was at that property, that he went to that property. But, and I said, well, that big 10, I said, I don't know where you're at over there, but that big 10 just walked right by that scrape. I mean, right down the fence line. Literally 30 yards in front of that tree. And he said that, he couldn't believe it. He's like, you gotta be kidding me, because, nature had called, to put it in the lightest terms. He was taking a growler as one of our big target bucks was just moseying right by the stand that I'm sure he was probably going to. If that doesn't sum up the kind of season that we've had, then I don't know what else would, because what are the odds? And this deer is a really nice 10. I mean, hopefully that deer's out cruising around. I mean, clearly he's cruising around because there is no food or anything on this property. It's just an old cattle actually, it's a working cattle farm. But right now there's no cattle on it, but it's just pasture. So that deer is clearly out just cruising around, looking for any remaining does. So hopefully he can get an eye on that buck before he totally vacates the area, or maybe he'll cruise back through. So, but man, if that doesn't sum up or embody the theme for this entire season for us, then I don't know what does. Can't help but laugh at that. I mean, well, just about had it done. I did have it done, actually. I apologize, I didn't get any footage of any of that at all. But and this is gonna be way out of focus right now. Apologize for the lighting. It's legal shooting light is over with now. But I got mobile. Like I said, I was probably going to. No deer were coming out where I'd hoped they would. And so with about 25 minutes of legal shooting light left, I went up on a rise, stalked up on there, and just peeked my head up over the rise into this cut corn, and there was not a deer out in this cut corn, which was kind of surprising. But when I got up there, I was able to see back this direction, and sure enough, I spotted 5 or 6 does and a nice looking buck out in these beans. And he was just kind of nudging the does along, and they were moving their way kind of back towards my truck, to be honest. And so I folded up all the camera gear and just took off on an all-out sprint. I mean, I'm sweating my butt off right now. And got all the way over here, and it worked out perfectly. I got in one of these low spots in this bean field and kind of made a stalk up here, and that buck pushed those does right to me, and it worked out perfectly. And he came up over this rise, and I mean, I had him broadside at like 125 yards, had the crosshairs dead on him, and I knew exactly what deer it was as soon as I got up here close and could get a better look at him. And I just do not know that deer's age. He's one of the deer that I've got pictures of over here that I just haven't hunted this place long enough and don't have enough history to know exactly that deer's age. He could be 3, he could be 6. I really don't know. I know for sure he's at least 3, but obviously we're not hunting 3-year-olds. We're hunting mature bucks, so he's not a big racked buck. So it's one of those question marks, you know. The things they try to tell you about aging deer on the hoof, I don't buy into that. I just don't, because so many times all these deer are so individual. You just really do not know unless you have history with the deer. Some deer are no-brainers, obviously, but a deer like this, when he's like a 120-inch 8-pointer, you know, it's like, that was the 3rd time that I've seen that buck on a hoof. I spooked him. He was locked with a doe in this draw when I was coming back to hunt one afternoon on like November, I don't know, middle of November sometime. Early November, I think it was. But I also, the morning of November 7th, had him come by me in this bean field, and I snort wheezed at him just to stop him and get his attention and get him looking my way. And I just do not know for sure that deer's age. So ended up being a fun hunt, having a little excitement there at the end. That's about all I got. That's gonna do it for Illinois gun season. So back to the bow, and then next weekend is muzzleloader. So onward. Okay, hopefully it's not too dark. It's December 28th, I believe. Yeah, and it's the afternoon. It's about 3 o'clock, so obviously I'm not hunting. I'm super late, but I'm on a little scouting mission tonight, and that's why I'm not hunting. Right now, as we speak, we don't really know of a deer that we can hunt. There are possibilities if all the stars align, and actually Jonathan's kind of going on one of those possibilities tonight on a small piece of permission that we have that's cattle pasture. And the reason he's going in there is because the conditions are right for it, the wind is right for it, and I have still been getting some photos on my cell camera on that property of a couple of mature deer that are definite targets that are utilizing that property. It's just, in the middle of the night, mostly those deer are moving through there on their way back to bed in the morning. But I have got a few afternoon photos, so if nothing else, possibly he'll learn something in there tonight, and then we can go from there. As far as if we have a buck to target and actually hunt on that piece for the remainder of what we have left of the season here. And right now the weather is just terrible, to be completely honest, for late season. It's 57 degrees right now, so super warm. The deer kind of whacked out as far as getting a lot of deer to pile into a food source before dark. Not saying that it can't happen, but it's just they don't really feel the need to pile into those food sources right now, or bed right on the edge of them, or what have you. So I've got permission on a really small piece of property that is mostly ag, so it usually sets up for some decent late season hunting, but the wind's dead wrong tonight. I can't go in there tonight. Hopefully I'll get in there tomorrow. It's supposed to switch out of the northwest, I think, for tomorrow afternoon, so hopefully I'll be able to get an afternoon sit-in over there tomorrow. A couple of our other permission properties right now, they are so tiny that I kind of touched on it a little bit last year, but they are virtually unhuntable now for this portion of the late season. There's just no deer there. There's just no deer living there, and as I've mentioned before, we obviously do not have big food to hunt over for late season. We don't have a bunch of food plots or anything like that. And this year, due to a lot of different circumstances, we don't have any food plots whatsoever. So it's definitely tough hunting when we get to the late season. It's slim pickings. It normally is for us. It's super challenging. And then, of course, we do have the home farm. But the thing about that is we don't have a deer on the home farm that we are wanting to hunt or target right now whatsoever. There is one mature buck that we know of that's still there. I've mentioned him a bunch. He's that deer that we don't really have a name for him yet. We've just been referring to him as the Spindly 10 this year, and we decided we were targeting that deer at the beginning of the season, but as season has gone on, and two really big 3-year-olds that were utilizing that property that we were hoping to have live there and survive the next couple of years and hopefully make it to 5 years old. Both of those deer were killed this year, so that's part of the reason we were targeting that deer early on in the season. Since both of those deer were killed, we have decided we're not going to target that deer. And then on top of that, he showed up later on in November after being gone for a couple weeks, and he was just completely beat up. His rack is basically gone. He's got a G4 on one side and he still has his brow tines, but other than that, half his beam is broke off on one side and every other tine on the other side is busted. He's partially blind in one eye. He's got a big goose egg coming out of his eyebrow over his right eye, and he's all scarred up. Either way, whether he had his full rack or not, we decided, some time ago after both of those nice 3-year-olds were killed, that we weren't going to hunt that deer, and we were going to let that deer go, and hopefully he survives the rest of the year, makes it through, and we can get back after that buck next season. So, long-winded way of me getting to what my plan is for this afternoon and what I'm doing and why it's 3 o'clock and I'm just now leaving the house and why I'm not hunting. Well, I just kind of touched on why I'm not hunting.
The weather, don't have a good spot to go, don't really have a buck to hunt, but I've been scouring the countryside, so to speak, and running around and doing some glassing from different roads and trying to find a big mature deer to hunt possibly for the late season, and maybe get permission on a different piece somewhere and chase after a buck for the late season here, for what little season we have left. You know, find a nice mature buck that we could possibly get on. And last night I actually did find a pretty good buck that was out feeding in a cut cornfield, and this is a piece of property that we may have a pretty good chance of getting permission on and possibly being able to hunt this deer for the remainder of this season. So my plan tonight is I'm going to buzz around around a few of our permission properties too. I'm not totally neglecting those because, you know, trail cameras obviously do not tell you everything. Just because you're not getting any deer on certain cameras does not mean you know, there could be a deer feeding there that you weren't aware of. So I am still going to buzz by a couple of those, glass from the road, or get on a high point and glass a little bit this evening. But I'm just going to stay super mobile here this evening, and my plan is towards the end of the evening, just like last night, I drove past this piece. This was a really nice buck that I spotted last night. I didn't have my camera with me, so I wasn't able to, you know, get any footage of the deer. Go figure. But this was a good enough buck that I'm going to try and find him again. And yeah, I was really happy that I found a good deer, and there's a little glimmer of hope right now that we may be able to try to hunt this buck before the end of season here. It's kind of a long shot, but hey, that's what the game plan is. That's a little update as to what's been going on, and so yeah, I'm gonna get after it.